Hello, hello, hello. It's another incredible LinkedIn Live session with two amazing women, and we have some other amazing ones waiting in the wings to join us as well. So, guys, well, there goes the word again. We talked about it behind the word, guys. Please don't all shout at me. You know, this whole diversity and inclusion journey, we're learning, aren't we? We are learning. We have to deprogram. It's all about changing hearts and minds. So forgive me if I use the offensive guys term. I don't mean any offense. We were talking earlier on, Caroline, you also struggle with it, don't you? So yeah, So ladies, gentlemen, friends, romance countrymen. We are back again for another fantastic session. We're going to be talking to two incredible women. Now, I met Caroline Smith last year. It was Caroline? Yes?
Oh, no, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes. And it's just been an incredible journey getting to know her, getting to understand her passion. And because it's based on her whole own lived experience with neurodiversity and also with your brand, because she's had to own who she is. And she's had to stamp that unrepentantly in the face of whatever opposition she might have had. And then I met Lisa because I had the pleasure of sharing the stage with Lisa that just recently. But it's about resonance, isn't it? It's about kindred spirits. We met on that stage at Cardiff Met, and there's been such an incredible, and what it was the heart and the passion that Lisa brings to serving young people. Yes. So without further ado, I'm not going to be introducing them for you. I'm going to let each one introduce themselves, and then I have waiting in the wings. I have Leanne Bird and Alex Kagi. Yes, we're going to be talking all things from your brand to serving the community, youth, and neurodiversity. All right. Yes, because this is all about the Mastering Diversity LinkedIn Live shows that's going to be paving the way for the next conference in September and continuing to raise and keep awareness of all things diversity and inclusion within Wales. So without further ado, Lisa, come on, say hello and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Hello, thank you first of all, thank you for having me on today. It's like I said, we've recently met Bernie in, I think it was the beginning of March, and we instantly hit it off, and our journey has sort of gone on from there. And she's one of my biggest champions at the moment. She's one of my biggest supporters, and yeah, I'm really, really lucky to have met her. And Caroline as well. I met her when I was up in London to watch Bernie with the Mastering Diversity talk in the House of Lords, and Caroline was my training buddy on the way home, which was lovely. So yeah, my business, a little bit of background. I went into education quite late on in life, and I retrained. I was a mature student, and I decided that I was going to work with children and change lives. It started when I progressed into education, and I was working within schools predominantly, and realised that there was a lot of lack of support for children with neurodiversity, with mental health issues, with adverse childhood experiences, trauma, whatever was going on in their lives. I just felt that there wasn't enough support. So after some conversations with my partner, Craig, who has been my biggest supporter, we decided that I was going to quit my job and start my own company. So I started CrewCymru, and we provide specialist interventions and wellbeing support for children who are neurodivergent, who are, like I said, struggling with their mental health, their well-being, whatever is going on in their lives. And we tailor those support to those children. So we work with children 13 up to 18, and we tailor those bespoke interventions for them. So my passion is working with children who don't fit into that box, who are yeah, those star-shaped, people who normally have to, crack their diamond shapes off to fit in. So yeah, that's who I work with, and I absolutely love it. So
Oh,
that's me.
that's fantastic. And we have one of those star-shaped people, Molly Fenton. She just put a comment. She's looking forward to this powerful chat. There she's, superstar shaped. Yes.
She's
And
amazing.
people
Absolutely
like
amazing,
you
Molly.
have done what you're doing for others, have done for the same for Molly. And yeah, exciting times. Let me, I don't even want to, this is not my show, this is your show, girls. Come on now. Come on, Caroline, your turn.
So hi everyone, yeah, I'm Caroline. I met Bernie 2 years ago at a women in business event, and I was very close to giving up my business. I'm a neurodivergent founder, and looking for people like me to help me understand how to build a business as a neurodivergent founder. And had a chat with Bernie, looking for these leaders, and she said, be the person and be the change you're looking for. And it stemmed on what I did with Smudge. So Smudge was created from, I've spent 20 years in corporate marketing, helping B2B brands really unsmudged what they do and lead with purpose and connect with their audience. As I was going through my journey and understanding me, and the digital transformation happened, there was a lot more tech and a lot less people, and it didn't sit well with me. So I looked to find a way that I could stay true to who I was, my passion and my purpose, which was people helping people. And as Bernie says, winning hearts and minds. So I launched Smudge just over 2 years ago now to help brands align with their purpose, then align with their ideal audience and share their values and understand how to really kind of communicate correctly.
Yeah, awesome. Damien is another incredible man that I've had the privilege of knowing for years now. And Damien, he suffers from cerebral palsy. He is wheelchair bound, but he has just absolutely turned his challenges into superpower, and he consults and advises at a very high level, and he does not lead just with his passion. He collaborates and he brings others on. So I know here he's saying here now he would love to have a chat with you, Lisa. And now he's saying he has some clients for Smudge. Yes, that's how we do it. That's how we do it. But
Thank you.
Let's have some conversations now. I know I have Leon and I have Alex in the audience here online with us. Do any of you ladies want to throw some questions out? Don't be easy on them. Let's get some questions out.
Okay.
You promised us this is going to be nice, Bernie.
Yeah. Who wants to start?
I'll go on. You go.
Yes,
go on. You go on.
All right, Alex, you go first. Come on.
I'll go next.
Questions. It's more a comment of awe, and I wish you'd been around when my child was in school, Lisa, in my area, because he didn't get any schooling at all. No GCSEs, no nothing. At the age of 14. And you know what life we had with that, don't you? Yeah. And similar
I
with
can imagine.
my oldest, yeah, when she hit a certain age, she couldn't do A levels. She was trying to do, couldn't do it, and myself. I know
Alex
shouldn't have been around then.
Alex, I resonate so closely with your story. Honestly, this is what bonded
so
over.
many people, so many people. It's just the whole education system just is not.
It was hard. Breaking, it's I never you bash the education system because everybody's trying so hard, but I just knew that because I'd retrained quite late on in life. I was a mature student, went into it late on, and my vision was I'm going to work with these children and I'm going to change lives. And it quickly became very evident that the way I felt it, the way I describe it when I try and describe what was going on, was I was just throwing blankets over these children to try and keep them sort of, until tomorrow, until I had more time, and then tomorrow would come and then I didn't have more time again. And I was just constantly coming home so frustrated and so upset, knowing that I had this passion and I had this vision, and I wasn't actually able to tap into it because there's so many, so much red tape, so many, sort of caps on the system. And when I left the school, it was a really hard decision. I was an assistant head of year. I had 300 children in my year group, and I absolutely loved each and every one of them like they were my own children. So many people say, oh, you shouldn't care too much. You shouldn't be, too caring about these children, or you shouldn't, you should switch off at the end of the day. And I've always said that the minute that I stop caring about these children is the day that I don't work with children anymore. And I can't see that ever happening, because my passion is just being there for them. And that's all they need, is somebody to stand up for them and shout for them and to be a voice for them. So when I decided that I was going to quit my job, and I started CrewCymru, and we work with so many wonderful children who are literally, they were left to drop off the edge of the cliff, basically. They were to a point where they were the missing middle. Nobody knows what to do with them. They've left school, they're not engaging in school. Actually, they just need somebody to say, do you know what, I listen to you. Tell me what, what's going on in your life at the moment. Tell me what you need, what you need to get you through the next stage. So it's been amazing for me, and literally every day I pinch myself thinking, I can't believe that I get to do this as my chosen career. And it's amazing.
And the thing is, Lisa, and all the ladies would agree with me, and I'm sure the people who are listening, yes, as Damien says, compassionate leadership is the way forward. Absolutely. The thing is, right now with the schools, they're leaving the diagnosis to the teachers who are not trained to do so. I mean, it's a whole science. Yes. Yeah. And so how have all, I know Caroline herself is neurodiverse. Alex, Leanne, are you also neurodiverse?
Potentially. It's something that I'm in the process of looking at getting a diagnosis.
Because that's the thing, it's early diagnosis as opposed to late diagnosis. Caroline, you want to come in there?
Yeah, I think whether it's early or late, the biggest thing in all of this, and it's something I'm seeing quite regularly commented on, is obviously there's varying levels of it, but for people like me and who I deal with, the biggest thing is to stop measuring neurodivergence and the level of intelligence. So what happens with a lot of us is we're actually quite intelligent, but we are labeled as troublemakers because we're seen as being intelligent and we're seen as being naughty or disruptive, or the other one is just not engaged, and then suddenly the system writes us off. And this is whether it's in school or whether it's in work, because there is a black and white thinking to how a certain person should behave and act in certain situations. And actually, rather than going, why, and I'm sure, Lisa, this is what you come up against, rather than going, why is this person acting out, they go, oh, this person's a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And it's understanding why someone who actually, and yet with, you put someone in the right place of passion or hyper focus, whatever language you want to use, they thrive. And instead what we want to do is pigeonhole people to fit into boxes. And actually what we need to do as neurodivergents is stamp on those boxes and say we need to do it our way, and actually listen to us, listen to what we bring, listen to the value we bring, rather than making us feel like we don't add value, we're not particularly intelligent, and we've got nothing to bring.
Yes. Leanne, you want to come in here?
Completely.
So what I was going to say off the back of that really is, when you've got these children now that are coming through, and maybe a lot more are diagnosed than maybe when Caroline herself was school age, and like I say, potentially myself. How are you supporting them, Lisa, and how do you think as well, sort of Caroline and Bernie, sort of would be the best way to support those individuals going from school, from college, to get into the workplace? What should they be looking out for an employer that's really going to support them to do exactly what Caroline says, squish on all those boxes and be themselves and get the best of themselves?
Completely.
What should they be looking for, in that a positive, inclusive employer?
Yeah, completely. For me, it was seeing those children who were, like you said, they were trying to be pushed into these boxes, and they were really, most of them were really disengaged because they'd given up. They thought, what is the point? Why am I trying, basically? And for me, it was just getting to know that child. And the first thing I do with any child that I work with, and it's a very, very simple task, and it's about, it's getting to know that child, and it's like a quick task. It's like a one-page profile. It's a getting to know me, and I ask them what they like, what they dislike, what do their families say about them, what would their friends describe them as, what favorite subjects have they got, and just try and get as much information from that young person as possible. And majority of the time, just having those little conversations, it can take 20 minutes, half an hour, and you'll be surprised what you get from that conversation. And from there, we tailor the interventions. Every child we work with is completely different. Their package, what we do with them is completely different. And that's, I think, the unique selling point for CrewCymru is that no two children are the same that we work with. And, we're working with a young lad who is 17 and really struggles with, he's autistic and lacks massive low self-esteem, to the point where he's got that he wouldn't leave the house. And when I went and met him, it was a big thing for him to, to be introduced to me and to sort of welcome me into his space. And he said, he's petrified of, going onto a bus. He's petrified of going into a shop because he's petrified of using the self-service machines. And it was like, right, okay, so why don't we just work on that when you're ready? And that's what we do. We go on a bus. We go to a shop, we use the self-service machine with me in the background helping. And that's where I'm really lucky that, I've got that time and capacity to work with those individuals. And it's just about building their confidence. And like I said, no two children are the same. And what I do with one young person and another person is completely different. But it's listening to them. And that first interaction with that young person is the key to opening those doors to them wanting to work with me and with CrewCymru. It's letting them have a voice, and you'll often find by the second or third meeting they're actually showing you things on their phone, like they've been doing art, they've been doing video clips, they've been doing editing, and it's like, wow, look what you're capable of doing. Mm-hmm. And then they're almost embarrassed to say, yeah, this is my passion, this is what I love. And then it's, that door has been opened then. So I'm just like, awesome. Right, okay, let's go. What can we do?
Awesome.
And that's, sorry, Bernie.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Caroline now. Come in, we're talking about you.
So from my
the corporate world. But before you let me just acknowledge Lorraine Morgan's contribution. Fantastic, great session. Brings back memories of how the education system let my autistic daughter down completely. We're so sorry to hear this, Lorraine, and there are so many that can attest to that. But this is why we're doing this. This is why we're raising awareness. This is why more and more people are, paying attention. hopefully we have less and less people like your daughter, that have to face this. But we hope it's not the end, because it's not over, because like even in the adult stage, there is opportunity to get diagnosed, and there's opportunity to make a difference in that respect. So Caroline, you want to just touch on employment and
It goes back to similar to what Lisa says, removing the barriers. So the biggest thing is clear communication of what to expect. So one of the examples I give from my point of view, and I know it's similar with autism, is if I'm going anywhere, whether it's an interview, whether it's meeting with, I've Googled that place, I've looked at the building, I know everything about it. So help us by explaining what the interview process is going to look like, what's going to be expected at every step, because we get nervous. So if we don't know what's to come and something gets thrown at us, it's going to knock us off our A game, and we're not going to perform at our best. So it's given us a opportunity to shine. And one of the biggest things for us is clear information. Knowing straight off, you don't want to take a job and then go, oh, by the way, there's no hybrid or remote working. Allow them to know from the start, are they able to work remotely? Are they able to do hybrid working? And what is the interview process? What's going to be expected? Who am I going to meet? And just so we can prepare ourselves, and we then can ground ourselves and go into it. The other one is, I've seen it more and more now, and I think it's fantastic. It's recruiting for skills. So rather than a long list of things that you can do, have a problem, and it's similar to what Lisa was saying about getting people into their passion, allow us to come to the interview and share our experience of how we think you can overcome a problem. It allows us then to sit into our passion rather than trying to fit into your tick box of what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. There's something that has come up recently. I recently did an EDI audit for an organization, and after that audit, one of the things that became apparent is that 1/3 of the staff were neurodiverse. Now, they've had audits before, they've had surveys done before, but in the survey that I used, there were questions that were asked to get certain responses, to come to certain understandings. So it's all about how you interrogate and how you communicate. And so one of the things that then came up out of that is, how do we then know, because we know that 1/3 of our staff are neurodiverse, and we also run a wholly remote working environment. How do we now make that, because they've already, let me tell you, they've done some incredible stuff, and they are exemplars as it is already. But their question is, gosh, how do we now change things with this knowledge? So anyone, Caroline, if you want to start off, to make space, especially meetings, to make the meeting spaces, workspaces, hybrid, remote workspaces, safe in contemplation of neurodiversity.
I think that's quite a broad question. I think it starts with personal understanding. I think it's you. There's very much a case of, as the employer, you have a go away and understand what that means. Create a space where they feel that they can share what that is, because neurodivergent or neurodiversity is a huge, and right the way from, that's underselling it. It's your dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, ADHD, autism. It's not, and not one person is going to be the same. So it's creating an environment where they can share and understand. Remote world, I think it's a difficult one. I think it's not forgetting them, especially with, if you are someone who's quite introverted, you will be quite happily in your own little space. But then if your company isn't asking how you're doing, what's going on, are you okay, is there anything we can help you, you're then going to feel unappreciated. So it's just remembering, with the likes of Slack, with Teams, it's easy to communicate, but it's also understanding how someone wants to be communicated with. So don't presume because you like it one way, someone else wants to be communicated another way, because then because they might not feel confident enough to say, I don't like that you keep bombarding me with messages. You know, it's also, people have different learning styles. So understand how people like to be communicated. I'm a very wordy person, but I also know other people are visual. I'm from my learning style, I'm a show one, do one, but other people are, let me just dive in. So it's just embracing, and this is whether we are ND or not. This is a good lesson for every business. Know that everybody's different, and create it's what Molly's just said, create a lived experience that your
collaborative thinking of lived experience.
It's the true word of diverse. Understand that great teams come from diverse thinking.
Yes, absolutely. You were going to say something, Lisa?
No, I just totally agree. It's just that,
Awesome. Alex, you want to jump in or add anything to that?
No, I think I think with that one, to be fair. From my point of view, it's the actual environments, as in physical environments, you have to think about as well, because I've had to leave employment because literally because I couldn't cope with the environments, and it's more and more, people are starting to listen to that more and more, but even companies that are meant to be the exemplars still haven't necessarily got it quite right yet. You need lots of different spaces in your working environment, so people get choice is really what you need, because like you said, everybody's different. Somebody needs bright light, somebody else needs
I was going to ask a question. Do you think it's going a step too far to expect from our employers them actually finding out from us? Because even though we are neurodiverse, we are working remotely, so we are in our own space. Do you think it's going a step too far to expect the employer to ascertain whether or not we have an environment within our workspace at home? For example, the ergonomic seating, the furniture, the lighting, little other methods. Do you think that's expecting too much?
If you're in your own environment, predominantly, you've already got your own environment how you want it. And that's the best thing about working remotely. It's the people that can't work remotely, and there still are people who it is refused.
Well, I can tell you that I actually, in working with organizations and doing EDI audits, I can tell you that it has come up in organizations where the remote workers are hoping that their employers would provide the right furniture, the right atmosphere, because they themselves can't afford it, but they need it to do the work. Because yes, you wanted to say something?
I've worked for a hybrid company where under the occupational thing, they did actually offer that. I don't know what I feel about the whole should they. I think you have a duty of care to a certain extent, that if you're agreeing to someone working remotely, you have to still agree, we were saying earlier, that they have a safe space to work and they have a comfortable place to work. And there is a level of, I know from some, if you would buy that chair for them in an office, then why at home? But then it comes down to, I think it's personally down to the business of whose responsibility is it? Does the chair have to go back? And I think that's it's a difficult one for any of us to answer, but I think it's one of those ones that needs to be discussed. And then it's one of those back to due diligence and governance of, okay, if we supply this stuff, it always belongs to the business, for example.
I think as well, just to add in there, is understanding what is that going to lead to if you provide that great space for someone at home. There is return of investment. It is an expense to purchase that, but if it means that they're not going to get so many aches and pains because they're sitting properly instead of sitting on the sofa, if it means they're going to be able to concentrate better because they're not distracted by aches and pains, or they've got a space where they can get away from the family, then I think, it's thinking about not just the cost of it, but what they get back from the employee, and also that appreciation of like they feel appreciated by their employer.
Exactly. And the thing is, Leanne, I agree with you 100%, because the thing is, we have to remember that most of the people who are working remotely right now, it's not by choice. It is the choice of the employer, especially coming out of COVID, where so many things have changed, and it just is it makes better sense for some organizations not to go back into to properties. And so it is of benefit to the employer, and it is something imposed on the employee. And so therefore, to my mind, I think it's really subjective. That's just my 2 pence. I think it's subjective. If you impose that way of working, then it should be it makes good sense if you really are about taking care of your staff, to ensure that they are able to deliver the work, because normally in your home environment, you don't sit all day at a computer, or some people do, gamers, but hey, but normally you don't sit all day at a computer in your home, so you don't have that there. So I would think it really would, the organizations that can afford it, I would think, but we're looking at the smaller organizations, it might not work. But from my part, I would think if you could, that would just say so much for the type of organization you are, to contemplate that and interrogate whether or not it is required. Alex, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so really, it's about reasonable adjustments. Are they reasonable? And that will depend on who the employer is. Is it reasonable for that person to be able to afford this, that, or the other? And not forgetting we've got access to work as well. So however a person who needs these things comes about, there are ways, hopefully. And ideally, employers should, support making sure that person, if they can't do it themselves, can find a way to get the right equipment. Now, when I talk about environment, I'm talking about, your light and your
and
you have your own control. I wouldn't say, oh, come and put a light. Personally, I wouldn't expect them to fit it in for me, But then, a chair and a table, if it wasn't suitable.
And even there are other things. I think Caroline alluded to it. There are all these various platforms and technology that can be used to support. But I think this takes us really nicely into the whole concept of intersectionality, because we're talking about neurodiversity, but neurodiversity in and of itself, it never usually stands alone. Yes, you have neurodiverse people who might also have issues with anxiety, social issues. You have neurodiverse people who might be wheelchair bound. You have neurodiverse people who might be Black, obese, of different sexual orientations. It's all of those things that we have to contemplate, and we have to take into consideration. So I have here, whilst let me see, Damien has put something out here. Let's get into the meat of this. Understanding your rights under the Equalities Act, reasonable adjustments in the workplace. Did you know that under the Equalities Act, when an employee requests a reasonable adjustment due to a disability, employers, that's why you took, said perfect, because that's what I was talking about, intersectionalities. Employers are legally obligated to give it reasonable consideration. Exactly. This is not just a guideline, it's a requirement in that ensuring equality and accessibility in the workplace. Furthermore, there's funding available for organizations to help to implement this. It's gone off. Yes, awesome. Damien, thank you for that. And that's it. It's perfect timing, because that's what I'm talking about. It's not just about the neurodiversity. It is also about, understanding that there are so many other considerations. And as employers, we have got to realize that we have a responsibility under the Act, the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act as well, the Public Sector Duty 2022, all of these very many acts.
Health and Safety Act,
Health and Safety Act, all of those. Thank you so much, Damien. I tell you, it's a wealth of knowledge. Yeah, so we really do have to consider all of these things when the intersectionality. It is so crucial. And the truth is, intersectionality in the context of which we speak tends to actually serve to cover over the neurodiverse element. That usually gets hidden away under many things. I see a lot of nodding heads. Come on, it's not my show. Come on. Who wants to jump in?
I think as well, like lots of the, going back to sort of, the children that I worked with, the parents are not often aware of what provisions are, for their children, what could be put in place for them. So lots of the children are literally just sort of, under that sort of, that line, because the parents themselves may be, neurodivergent. They don't know themselves, and not a lot of people in the education system are fully aware of what they should be doing. So it's just this, it's all so woolly and that's, it's letting our children down, because there's so many things that are out there and need to be implemented, which just aren't being put forward. And that's the frustrating part.
On the spot, because I know I can, because when we shared the stage, you said you had permission to share the story of a young lady. Would you mind sharing her story quickly? Yes?
Yeah. So I work with a lovely young lady who she started with us in the school that I was in, and I've got permission from her family and from her to talk about it. And she is the one who made me realize that I wanted to do this as, my own thing. She moved 2 hours away from her biological family due to lots of things going on, lots of trauma, lots of ACEs. And she joined us. We had no background. We just knew that we had this new girl come in with us. And it was quickly evident that, there was lots going on in her life. She lived with grandparent and her little sister, and quickly became evident that she was really, really struggling. There was questions over whether she was autistic, but majority of it was blamed on behaviour, and she was just naughty and she was just causing carnage in the school. But she was I was her go-to. I was her emotionally available adult, and I was the one who she would come to if there was ever any problem. And I can remember just saying, she just needs somebody to listen to her. And so when we had her file after she'd been with us for about 3 months, we had her file and we realised what was actually going on and what she'd been witness to, what she'd been through. It was horrendous. And she quickly became the worst behaved child in the school. But not because she was doing anything really, really bad. Majority of the time it was she had the wrong colour tights on, or she had the wrong shoes on. She wouldn't take her hoodie off. So all these exclusions were building up and building up and building up, to the point where they were just like, right, we don't know what to do with her. And when I left the school, I promised her and her family, her nan and even her little sister, I was going to come back for her. I said, I don't know in what capacity, but I'm coming back for you, because I'm not letting this go. You're one of the ones who I want to, make sure that there's lots of people out there like you. There's lots of young children, and I'm not going to give up on you. And yeah, there was no money to pay for my service. So July, I started working with her free of charge, and I'm still working free of charge. She's under social services, and there's still no money. They love what I do with her. She's come on so much. She's just about to join a young apprenticeship scheme. She's back in school. I see her every week, and it's literally, I can pick her up and she's like, can we just go down the beach and smash some rocks up? And I'm like, yes, let's go. Then other times then we're going to, I live very close to, I don't know if any of you know Wiggly's Fun Farm. I don't know if you know it. And it's very, very small sort of, you know, petting farm, you know, so it's beautiful there. She loves animals. So I pick her up and we go there, and little does she know that I actually make her do this booklet, and she has no idea she's doing work. Doing these wonderful tasks, and she's doing all this research for me because I'm not very clever of how to look after a horse. So I give that to her to do. And then all of a sudden I'm presenting her with certificates, and she's like, what are these for? And I'm like, well, you know that work you were doing, it was actually building. So I'm an ASDAN centre, so we do ASDAN courses. And yeah, so she's building up a portfolio, and she's now going on to a young apprenticeship scheme. She's 14 this year. And she is my biggest, she is my biggest supporter, and I'm her biggest supporter. And I vowed I would never, I wouldn't let her go. And lots of people were saying, you can't, you care too much about these children. And like I said, the minute I stop caring is the day that I stop working with children.
Exactly. Fantastic.
And she's my biggest, like when I do my talks, she is my story. She is the one I champion. She's the reason why CrewCymru started.
Do you know what comes to mind with this? Lilo and Stitch, the quote, nobody gets left behind.
Yeah. Awesome.
No one left behind.
Caroline, perfect timing, because I was just about to focus on you, because I just thought I wanted to ask you to share just a little bit about how you discovered your own neurodiversity, and if there's anything you want to talk about with a challenge and a triumph. That would be incredible to hear.
I'll try and whistle stop it. It's a long-winded way. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 11, but again, was never quite bad enough that I needed additional support. That was my whole system through the school. Never quite bad enough to need additional support, but so they didn't quite know what to do with me. Similar to what Lisa's talking about, what she did, the knock-on effect to my confidence and my ability, because like many high achievers now, I was that child, if I just tried a little bit harder, I could make it. So then became a high achiever who believed that the reason I wasn't making it was because I wasn't trying hard enough. That continued into my working life, but something didn't quite fit. I was never, like many neurodivergents, had quite a few jobs where I didn't quite fit. It was never about my ability to do the job. It was certain things about not meeting deadlines, not doing this, and something wasn't gelling for me. And through my postgrad diploma, there's my link to intelligence. I've got an undergrad and a postgrad. My tutor picked up on something, and she referred me to occupational therapy, where I got my non-specific diagnosis, which I'm always a bit wary of, because if anybody read my report, it makes me look incredibly thick, to put on a better word, and that I can barely look after myself. But then 4 years ago, what are we looking at? 2.5 years ago, I was talking to someone who is a psychotherapist, and she looked at my report. From there, it was the ADHD thing came from, and it all made sense. The questions of what was I like in school? I was the child where her school report was always, if she tried a little bit harder, if she stopped talking, if she did this, she could just make it. And that's where I got to today. But the problem is with the language that is used to, I hear stories in other ways. It does have a knock-on effect. So going back to what Lisa's saying about trauma, I'm open about the fact that I've been in therapy for the last 18 months dealing with the trauma that has come from words hit deep, because of I was made to feel like I was a problem child, and made to feel, I talk about being a recovering workaholic, because my go-to is just work a little harder. And I worked until burnout. So last year, Leanne knows this story very well. Leanne's a very good friend of mine. Last year, I had what is known as ADHD burnout, to the stage that I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks, because I'd worked myself into burnout, because I couldn't work out what was the right way to feel like I was achieving. Everything I was doing, all the neurotypical advice was just try this, just try that. I was spinning so many plates and nothing was moving me forward. I was working and working and working and working until one day I just couldn't get out of bed. But the positive you asked for, because I always want to finish on a positive, is 2 years later, I have found who I am unapologetically. I have found a way to build my business my way. And Smudge is, you know, we're still a baby, but we're going from strength to strength.
Yes, your business your way. That sounds a bit familiar. Somebody wrote a book on that. I wonder who wrote that book. This one. Where's my other book?
But it goes back. I've got the other one.
Where's my other one? I can't believe I can't find it in my office. I can't believe it.
But it's exactly.
Do you have it?
What you said, Bernie. It's exactly what you said, Bernie.
Your way, man.
Yeah, and it's teaching other people to do it their way.
Yeah, and can I just say as well? You know, like Caroline said, we're good friends, and I met her sort of that. Sort of didn't know her well enough when she was going through the burnout, but we ended up becoming very good friends afterwards. And but you know what Caroline has experienced, and the what she's learning about how to be you know, she's an amazing founder anyway, but be an even more amazing founder using her powers and her strengths. You know, she passes on to other people. Like, you know, we both suspect that potentially I'm neurodivergent as well. Got to get tested, but you know, the advice that she gives me is helpful to for me and my business as well. And I think the more shared learning we can do, and the more people like yourself, Bernie, are just getting this information out there and getting people to talk about their experiences. Everybody's experience is different, and everything that works for one person may not work for others. But I think it's brilliant that everyone is doing this, and you know, I'm learning from you all and Caroline on this as well. So.
Like what Leanne said, so fabulous to hear all these inspiring stories. That's what it's all about. The more listen, it's the stories. Storytelling is so powerful. It's been around for all from the beginning of time. Yes. And what are the stories we're telling? What are the stories we're listening to? What is it that, as Caroline said about having to go through therapy because of the words? Those are the stories you are being told. And this is a book, Your Business, Your Way. How is it finding now? Can you find it? Can you see? Yeah, there we go. That's it. Listen, know yourself, embrace your you-print, create your brand. Caroline can tell you about the brand that is authentic, and be the change that you want to see. Boom. And be considerate of others while you're doing it. It's not just about just railroading. You were going to say something, Lisa?
Yeah, just Leanne, who left the message about this story. We had a Teams meet one day, and she does absolutely amazing work with children as well. So yeah, well done, Leanne.
Jolene is asking, is there an audible version of my book? Oh, you're putting me to shame now, Jolene. I need to work on that. I need to do it on both of my
Can I bring in something? Sorry, I'm going to quote Bernie this time. Something that you said at the IWD event this year was actually a beautiful one. Is we need to stop nasal gazing, because the biggest thing is we need to look up more. And that was the one that sat with me, is if you really want to drive this change and be inclusive of this change, we need to look up more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Jolene's laughing at me. I see you, Jolene. Awesome. Right, so we're coming to the last 10 minutes now. Right, we're wrapping up now. We've talked. Oh gosh, we could go on for so much longer, couldn't we? But this is why it's continuous conversations, and you know, the more we talk, knowledge exchange. We don't silo working. We don't have all the answers by ourselves, but together we can find those answers. So coming into the last 10 minutes, I'm going to throw it out now. Now is an opportunity for my two main guest speakers to just tell me your takeaway. Meaning, what is it that when we leave this session, you would want people to, if they forget everything else, what you don't want them to forget about this, what do you want to underscore and highlight that people should remember? Who do I start with? Let's start with Lisa. Yes.
I think for me, it's one of the biggest things that, is every behavior is trying to communicate something. And I live by that. Whatever's going on, if that child or young person is acting out or they're withdrawing, they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to communicate something to you, whether there's something going on, whether they are feeling, sort of really out of sorts, whatever. That's the biggest thing is behavior is communication. And that's a key thing for me and there is no two people the same in life at all. Everybody's got a different learning. Like, Caroline, I'm a very visual learner. And we all deserve that chance. We all deserve to have a voice and we all deserve to be listened to. And what I think the biggest thing for me is when you work in education, it's a very sort of closed knit, like to keep everything in-house. And since I've gone out on my own, I've realised that there are lots of people out there who, there's enough work for everybody. There's plenty of work for everybody, but let's come together. And we've all got different skill sets. Let's come together and make those changes. And, events like this are just fantastic for getting people together, talking and just saying something needs to change. So that's me.
Fantastic. And in between that, Damien has said he needs to have a virtual coffee because we're all change makers. Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Damien. Right. Okay. Caroline, what's the thing that you don't want us to forget?
So mine is always the same one. It's the fact that we are a diverse people and business needs diverse thinking. And when you have neurodiverse people amongst you, we're not there to cause a problem. Don't see us as a problem to your business. Understand why we're not being an asset, because we would not go through the stress of trying to work with you if we didn't want to actually add value. So I'd embrace that diversity, see how we can add value and create an environment where we can thrive.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Now I dragged in these two young ladies, put them on the spot, Alex and Leanne. So come on, we're not letting you go without giving your bit as well. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, and you can go first.
I thought you were just going to ask Lisa and Caroline, so I didn't think about it.
I just thought, but they were too quick.
No, you're involved as
well. I think just to follow on from what the other two were saying, is like everyone is an individual, and just embracing like that. Whether people are neurodivergent or not, everyone is an individual. And we just need to, within the education system, within workplaces, we need to start supporting people for how they best show up, and supporting everyone in that way. We're supporting neurodiverse people, people with disabilities, everything, because we're asking every individual, what do you need from us to get the best? And I think just to add to what those guys are saying, like we just got to treat everyone with respect, and that's how we'll go forward. I think it's something you said, Bernie, about it again at the IOD event about where's the human gone from human race.
Yes, we've lost our humanity. We've forgotten that phrase, human race. All of this race business. I mean, I'm Black, so I can say it. You probably can't. All this race business. I'm not downplaying that there are issues with racial bias, but come on, what about the human race?
Yeah,
we have a propensity to alienate each other, whether we're all from the same race or not. We do, because it's human nature to, because we fear, because we're scared. We also, some of us are just greedy. We don't want to share, so we find ways to separate so we can have one-upmanship. That's the basic human propensity that we have, and we've got to fix that and remember that we are all one human race. Thank you for reminding me of that, Leon, because it is so true. And I was not going to say today, it needed to have been said. You see, that's why we need to say things, because when we plant seeds, it comes up other places. Thank you so much. Alex.
Now, be prepared for this one. We'll have to have some jokes after this, I think. I think the takeaway that I would like people to take away is that the reason all of us are doing this, all of us are fighting for neuro inclusion, whatever you want to call it, is because people are dying. The suicide rates are so high in especially autistic or autistic ADHD. I mean, 35% of autistic people, I read on the Autistica website from a piece of research they've done, 35% of autistic people, and that's the diagnosed ones, have tried to end their own lives. 35%. You know, and 28% I've seen in another piece of research of children, autistic children, have, you know, suicidality, and it's like it's just a, you know, it's awful. And this is why I do what I do. I know, yes, all right, I might be popping at little quiet spaces here and there or whatever, but the message I want to get out there is what we all do is saving lives. It's not just, you know, oh, it's a nice to have. It's not just about that. It's about, you know, it could be a case of, so you know, 1 minute that person has a, for example, in an event, can't cope. If you've got ADHD, for instance, and you've got that compulsive behavior, you could just literally run out and boom, that could be it, you know.
Wow.
And now we need jokes.
But you know, why not? I'm gonna spotlight myself now. That's a joke. You got a joke in here. Right, no, but seriously though, I remember when I did the conference, Alex, last year, the Diversity and Inclusion Conference. And I know I got some support and advice from Caroline, and I also got some support and advice from you. And even after the event, Alex, you were so kind to decide to, you know, to join up with the task force, with a particular remit being to help me, because like I said, I don't know everything, and especially when it comes to neurodiversity. And you are so correct, because that conference that we had, it was incredible. It was huge. It was buzzing, and I know I got feedback from some of my neurodiverse friends that it really was difficult. By the end of the day, some of them had migraines. You know. And it is, and we think, oh well, why do I have to think about? Well, I've got to think about. We got to think about that. We've got, as best as we can, you know, think about how we can make spaces, something as simple as that, but how we can also have this atmosphere of accessibility of person. So we are accessible to them to be able to tell us how they're feeling before they just run out and do something desperate. You know, so to be honest, it might seem like it's a bit of a Debbie Downer, but you know what? This is real life. This is real life.
And this is what we're here to change, you know?
Yeah, exactly that.
Positive. We're here to change this stuff.
Alex, it needs to be said, you know, I always say nothing changes if it isn't challenged. And the problem is, as society, we're too scared to say the uncomfortable things, but if no one says them, they'll never get changed.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know,
so on that note, we're right on to 16:59. I promised to try to end at 5 o'clock sharp. Listen, this has been incredible, and this is just the beginning. I feel we need to continue to do some more of this, you know, and this little group here with the neurodiverse story. I think we need to bring it in again later down, you know, a few weeks' time to just continue the conversation, see how we're going, check the temperature of things. I think we need to continue this conversation. Are we okay with that? Keep this group together, talk about this. Absolutely, because I know Lorraine has gotten in touch with me already. We've been chatting. I've been busy, you know, and I know we're talking about getting in touch with her daughter, and let's see how we develop things. You know, so a lot of you have been thinking, listening online. Touch base. I put the connection points for the two speakers. But Alex and Leanne, if you want to put it in the comments afterwards so people can, you know, get in touch with you. Thank you, Leanne Morgan. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Molly Fenton, and all the other ones of you who have been, you know, participating. And it's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to